Hello everybody, today we're going to be taking a look, tonight we're going to be taking a look at Unexplored by Ludomotion. And first off, I'm a little stuffy today, so sorry about that. You'll probably notice me being a little raspy and nasally. I'm sick. I don't really know why. It's the middle of summer, but we're just going to have to deal with it. But at least I can talk today. So, what is Unexplored? Unexplored is a game that you can play. It feels a bit like, it's a top-down RPG that feels a bit like playing Nethack in real time, I suppose is a good way to put it. Very obviously roguelike based, but in real time. It has some interesting mechanics and things, so let's jump in. Go to New Game, and you're presented with a ridiculous amount of options. So you can kind of do some odd things with this. They allow you to play in a lot of different ways, which I always appreciate, besides just difficulty. But even the difficulty is a bit odd in its balancing, and I mean that in kind of a good way. It's, again, kind of like a roguelike in terms of how it balances itself. So you can put in a seed to generate the levels in a specific way, and the way the levels are generated in this is actually awesome, and I'll go into more of that later. Not just in a visual sense, but the actual content itself. You can actually add more puzzles as well. There are various puzzles that can be solved for rewards. You can add more bosses. If you were suicidal, you can add other modes to the game as well, like Desolate mode, which is, I mean, pretty much exactly what it sounds like, and even Arcade mode, which is new in the latest update, which is basically just a whole bunch of everything lumped in there for you to mess around with. Monsters and loot and lots of magic, unidentified stuff everywhere, and it's kind of insane. And then, of course, your difficulty levels from casual to hard. And the higher up you go, the less good gear you'll get, and the more monsters and gold you will get. So we're just going to keep it kind of balanced in the middle here, as is default. And now I actually have some classes. This isn't here at first, which is interesting. And you can also randomize your character. I'm not sure what you're meant to be, but it's adorable. We'll go with that, because it's bluish, teal, turquoise. That color. And you also can do all of this individually, but I like to randomize it because it's fun. Now, I can actually start out as a cleric if I want to, which starts me with different stats and different equipment, which, again, this is all new to me because I just unlocked these. Usually you're an adventurer by default with no choice. Let's see. Extra melee, which makes sense for a cleric, and I get some other stuff. Some scrolls, so probably like last rites and things. Or a wizard. Less strength, more magic lore. I can identify potions and scrolls easier. Magic missiles. Oh my god. And a hat. Well, for the purposes of this video, I think I'll go with the adventurer, because that's what you're going to be experiencing for a while. But that hat though. So we're going to continue. And then, this is also important, so you keep your gold when you die. Yeah, everything else is gone, but you keep your gold. Or when you ascend, and everything you have in your inventory is sold off for gold. And you use it to buy stuff for your next run. You have your starting gear, and everything that you can buy. And the classes and the stuff that you can buy is tied into an unlock system based around achievements. When you unlock achievements for doing whatever it is that you do, you generally speaking, the achievement also comes along with some sort of game unlock that's permanent. So the ability to buy tools, for instance, is gotten by actually using a tool successfully to disarm something. Or getting the wizard is done by recharging an empty staff with a scroll of recharge. Things like that. You get the achievement and it unlocks something for you. So here's what I have. I have 95 gold from my last run. And I really want some detect magic scrolls, but those are very expensive. So I'm actually going to buy an extra healing scroll. I can get some unidentified potions. Oh, good. Extra rations are always nice. And I'm going to actually buy beers for the tavern keeper here, because he gives you tips for the game, and can even give you items sometime as well. One time he gave me a stack of like 3 identified incineration potions, which are basically fire bombs if you throw them. Let's see. Make a mistake, say goodbye to whatever price is waiting for you. That is if you're lucky. Yeah, that's just a tip that the puzzles can become permanently unsolvable if you screw them up. The optional ones, that is. Goblins tougher than they look. Yeah, I found that out last time. Huh, interesting, I didn't know that. So if you close the shop after buying something, that's it for it? Okay. Let's see, magic chests. Like certain braziers. Yep, that happens. I found a couple of those. Zelda reference, indeed. And... oh, a rope. And he gave me a rope for that. Yeah, that allows you to jump down chasms and not take damage. Once. Okay, and here we go. Entering our random dungeon. We are in the Wild Glades. So, here we go. And the way that the combat works is immediately kind of worthy of mention. So you have your weapons in each hand, and just running the weapon or touching an enemy with the weapon into someone is a way of doing damage. But that is actually its own attack that is separate from clicking with the weapon. And clicking with a weapon does a different attack depending on what the weapon is. So for my left-handed weapon here, the short sword, it thrusts forward a little bit. And you can see that it went black for a minute and then switched to my offhand weapon. That is because a black weapon is unusable. It basically has a cooldown timer. My dagger here, if I right-click, it will toss it because it's a ranged weapon. But if I just run into an enemy with it, it will stab them with it for a very small amount of damage. Let's see. So we're going to explore this area and see what's up. Okay, so he's got a spear, which means he has a range advantage. So what I need to do is kind of not do that. Okay, well, I lost like half my health. What you're really supposed to do is sort of try and get around them, you know? See if you can make your way around them, or bait their shield into taking a hit from your dagger, because shields work the same way. Once they take a hit, they turn black for a minute and can't be used, and then just stab them. That's what I usually try and do. But that does allow me to get the spear, which I want, because it is a spear. It's a bit slower than your sword, but it's got quite a bit of reach on it. Now you can go into the water. Water where you can see the bottom is of course shallow. Water where you can't see the bottom puts up an air meter, because it's quite deep. So you gotta be careful about that. But the levels are set up for exploration. You're meant to go pretty much everywhere you can, everywhere you can see. There we go. And just see what you can find. There are all kinds of hidden things. Hidden walls that look like walls but are actually doors. Switches for just about everything. Keys underwater, apparently. Hidden enemies guarding chests. Hidden chests. Things that you normally can't see because they're actually invisible until you solve a puzzle or light a certain brazier on the level, or put a certain figure on a certain pedestal, and there will be hints in the levels that actually tell you what goes where in order to solve the puzzle, which is cool. The game doesn't expect you to solve it just by itself necessarily, which is something I really like about it, actually. If you want to know one thing the game does differently from other, I guess, you know, games of this sort, it's the level generation. The areas themselves can be very different from each other. I mean, just this first Depth 1 area is just very, very different from the Depth 1 area that I was at the first time. Well, the run I did earlier. The run I did earlier, it was basically there was no water like this at all. It was an entirely underground sort of cavern with some rocks and stuff everywhere, and a lot of interior kind of dungeony bits like this, kind of like you would expect from a game like this. However, this one's got a bunch of watery bits, which is a bit different, and some I don't want to drown, and some other nonsense going around. I'm going to drown. Also bees for some reason. But one thing to note is that drowning sucks. And another thing to note is that the puzzles and everything are generated in a very interesting way. So you'll find, I guess the best way to put it is that the generation actually creates a story as well as a dungeon, which is really cool to me, because that's abnormal. Generally speaking, you kind of get a level and that's that, which is fine. Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. But in this case, you'll actually find these books everywhere, and these books are very, very important. Not just for general game tips, like here is a recipe for a rare type of potion and things like that, but also for things like solving a puzzle that you'll find later on in that particularly generated dungeon. It actually generates the solution for the puzzle in a book somewhere else that you have to find. So you'll maybe find something that says, you'll find a bunch of figurines on a level. Uh-oh. And then you'll see something, a book that says, like, well, the level, like Depth 2 level, has a library. And in that library is supposedly the solution to which figurine is actually the correct one to use. And you can try and guess if you want, if you don't care that much about the treasure, or you just want to dance around with some bees. Or you can actually take your time and go up to that library, try to find it, and then try and figure out what the actual solution is. And taking your time in doing that, you will be rewarded with really good loot, generally speaking, which is really neat. I like that it actually generates, with that much detail, this kind of story. And you'll also find tips for bosses and things like that. It'll show you that you'll find a note that'll say, like, you know, on depth 7, and then something about the boss's name, killed my friend. It's like a note from an adventurer. And you'll keep seeing, as you keep going down, more and more notes about this particular infamous creature until you get the point that, yeah, it's a boss. That if you get down to that particular level, you're going to fight. And you might even get some tips about it, like it uses fire, or it wields a very difficult to get past shield, or something like that. And you can use this information to prepare a way to fight it. And that's neat, because you don't usually get that much detail in the level generation that actually isn't oh my god, this place is full of bees and I do not like it. It's not just level generation, it actually comes along with a bunch of sort of story and puzzles and bosses and things like that that are generated along with it. Let's go to the moldy kitchens. Sounds awful, but better than bee land. Okay. So, rations. I don't have a lot. Now, trying an unidentified potion is usually really dumb, because it could kill you. So I'm gonna wait until I get like a scroll of detect magic, or an identify scroll or something. Usually it's better that way. Or you may even find a library with a book, like I was talking about, that actually tells you what a specific type of potion looks like in that run, and it will actually identify them for you if you have any, which is neat. There's a lot of interactions. Oh, that's a boss. Good. Sometimes there are like depth 2 bosses that you can just stumble upon. I actually found on my last run that I was a kobold ninja that I was able to beat, and it gave me a bunch of shurikens, some good armor, and there's a potion in that water, and a scimitar, I believe, and that carried me all the way through to like depth 6 or 7, and I even beat another boss as well. Unfortunately, I didn't get that boss's loot because I actually knocked him off of a cliff when I beat him, so I didn't get his drops, which sucked. Oh god, I'm on fire. Luckily, there's water there. Well, I think that was my last healing potion. Oh god. I kind of want that cleaver, honestly. Or I could just miss. That's fine. Okay, luckily you can pause during a fight. As you can tell, rations restore your health, but you have to use them manually, and they're rather slow. You can also find life potions, which actually don't just restore your health, but they... There. Oh my god. They also increase your maximum health permanently. He stole my dagger. Oh no! Bad. Very bad. Very, very bad. I think this is the end. I had no idea. Oh, that actually healed me. I had another one. Oh, I bought another one, didn't I? That's right. Oh wait, he healed himself? I think it might be time to leave. He doesn't have that much health. I just don't do that much damage. Okay, maybe I need to be more aggressive. Just get in there. Get in there. Got him. And that's what happens. So I got more healing potions, a cleaver, and a who knows what that is. So, yeah, that is unknown leather armor. I could try and equip it, and in 1,000 steps it will tell me what it is. But if it's something like a leather armor of setting your ass on fire, it'll pretty much be immediately obvious what it is. But usually it's not that clear, and you have to wear it for a while. Weapons work the same way. You can kill a certain number of enemies with them, and they'll identify themselves. But if they are cursed, of course, then you can't unequip them. In classic roguelike style, we'll be rebels. And what's this cleaver do besides cleave things? 10 slashing, yeah, increased chance to cause bleeding. That seems worthwhile. Let's take the... Oh, wait, too heavy. What? Oh, requires a strength of 13. I have a strength of 12. So that actually does 1 less damage. But you know what? Because it's my offhand weapon, I'm okay with that for now. Well, that was messy, but at least you got to see a boss fight. So this is basically how the game goes, on, and you go farther and farther, and the levels get more and more crazy with traps and puzzles and secret rooms and all kinds of stuff to do. And I really... oh, that's a cute little gecko thing. And it really reminds me a lot of older school roguelikes like Nethack, just played in real time. A book! Definitely the wrong way to go. The level below is overrun with undead. You see, there's a bit of that I was talking about. It generated a level, probably an optional branch, because it can do that. The game isn't a linear path. There are optional side branch levels that you can go to as well that usually have really good loot. But it is apparently overrun with undead, so if I want to actually go down there, I'll want to have some last rite scrolls and stuff to prevent them from actually raising themselves back up, because skeletons can do that because they're jerks. You can also saw that I clicked a button that said copy and discard, which allows you to use your journal to refer back to all of the books that you've read so far, so you can keep those notes with you. You don't have to write them down like you're playing a very old school game there. Oh no, no be it. Okay, so let's not go that way yet. There's probably a lever to turn that off, so it won't shoot me. You can find some really exotic stuff later on as well, like you can even find firearms. You can unlock an archer class and a couple of other really interesting classes. You probably saw the names there on the selection list. And like I said, there's somehow really cool and interesting interactions with how... there's one. With how the systems work. You can, for instance, just bottle some water by swinging a flask at water, and hold the water physically like this over fire, and it will turn it into hot water eventually. And you can throw that hot water at your enemies to scald them, or create some steam in a room if you need to, because some rooms, for instance, have to be steamy to reveal secrets. That can happen. Or you can combine a tea leaf with a bottle of hot water to create tea. For, you know, tea reasons. And then you can also... what are some of the other weird things you can do? There's a... there are gases in the game that show up, like an actual like poison gas that if you walk into it will hurt you very quickly. Oh, staff. And there's also just this purple gas that's just like a flammable gas that will light on fire if it touches anything like these, if it spreads into this room. There's also a stuff called mist that's spelled M-Y-S-T, like the game, and that is sort of like a magical fume that if you cast certain spells in it will actually sort of amplify them, and you can get some crazy results with that. Like casting one magic missile into mist will multiply it into like 6 or 7 magic missiles, I think. But the extras can't hurt you if you're not careful. I've heard mist plus summon magic is ridiculous, but I haven't had the chance to test that yet. Like, this is an altar. There are 3 different sort of gods in the game, and they each have altars that accept different kinds of materials. Oh, that's why I'm constantly eating stuff. Because that's cursed armor. Great. Let's see what this staff does really quick. Wait, it's full book. Cloak of Movement in Armory and Breezy Shadow Pits in Depth 3. Okay, that allows you to wear heavier stuff than you normally would be able to without being encumbered by it. And then that's next to some full plate, which is heavy stuff that you'll be encumbered by if you wear it. So you see the point there. But I'll take that actually. Okay, what does this do? What was that? Icicles. Ew. Huh. Well, great, I have some cursed armor, and I don't think I have any sort of scrolls to test and see if they're uncursed scrolls. Mace hidden a couple of floors down. Potent and pure, even the dead fear it. Oh, so it's like a blessed mace to kill undead, which could be useful for that undead floor that we heard. As you can see, the game tends to generate very specific situations for you, which is really neat. That's probably the thing I appreciate most about this game is how it generates its floors. They're random, yes, but they're not so random as to be meaningless. They actually have kind of a story and a meaning to them that creates almost like each game you try for is its own little contained story. And I appreciate that. That's really neat. So this is Unexplored. It is available on Steam right now for a price in dollars. I think it's $15, which is pretty fair because there's a lot here. And it's pretty addicting, actually, because of the amount of stuff to do and the very large variety and content that's available here, especially once you start unlocking more classes. That's really neat. The Brittle Delves. And later on, you find some really cool stuff, fight some really hard enemies, and the boss fights are actually really fun. And like I said, the level generation is definitely, in my opinion, the highlight of the game with its strange method of generating sort of storytelling-esque structure. That's very cool, and I've never really seen that before in a game, I don't think, so I appreciate that. I think more games of this style should do that. Making each run its own little self-contained story is very compelling, and something that keeps you playing. You want to play another one almost immediately afterward. Oh god! Because it keeps you kind of wanting to, you know, like, just try another one, see what kind of weird scenarios it comes up with next. And with the addition of those other modes, like arcade mode, it adds to that flair even more. That is a club, apparently. And the art style is nice. So, one thing I will say, though, the game does have a strange problem for me, a couple of strange problems, although your mileage may vary. I've only seen a couple of people having these issues, but I feel like I should mention them nonetheless, or else this would be an incomplete look at the game. When I first started the game, I had some really serious screen tearing issues, like really bad. And that's not necessarily the game's fault, because, as I've mentioned a few times before, I actually have... I don't use a normal monitor, I use a television, which has some pretty bad screen tearing anyway. However, with this game, it was even worse. And, ooh, a magic sigil, I should explain that again. Anyway, and yeah, so with this game it was really bad, and the in-game VSync didn't fix it. So I actually had to turn off the in-game VSync and force a triple buffering VSync in the NVIDIA control panel to actually fix the screen tearing issues that I was having. I don't know why that's the case, but that's what I had to do. And then the game also started having a problem where if I left it open and just was playing for a few hours, about an hour at a time, it would start stuttering it would basically freeze for about a second every roughly 10 seconds. And this made the game almost unplayable because it was freezing constantly. I don't really understand what was causing that, but apparently there were a couple of other people that were having an issue like this, and it's different from microstutter. It's something else. I don't really know what it is, but yeah, there were some people having this issue, and there was a fix posted on the Steam forums. I tried this fix. It involved putting the game in a compatibility mode for Windows 7 for some reason, and doing that, and a couple of other things. Yeah, I just did everything that it told me to do. It didn't work. The fix helped. It made it to where the game lasts longer for me before it starts doing this strange stuttering behavior, but it still does it after a while if I let it play. I just basically have to close the game down and start it up again, and that's fine for another like hour and a half or so. I don't really understand why it's doing this, but yeah. I figured I should just say that. That is not a problem that everyone is having. I want to point out that's just something that happens sometimes, but for me at least, it's definitely a bit of an issue. How do I get over there? So yeah, anyway, another thing I definitely want to explain really quick is the sigil system, because it's actually really, really cool. I got this here. This is a sigil of magic. I have no idea what it does, but there are various sigils, you can find lots of them, and there are anvils you can find around the level as well. There's not one around here, though. The anvils are forges, and you can combine various items and the sigils to create things. And this system is awesome because it has a huge amount of variety and you can create all sorts of amazing things. It basically allows you to create your own magic items. And it also allows you to do some kind of silly things with like already magic items, and some sigils will still work, and the amount of variety you have is kind of incredible. Oh no, now I'm drained. You can even do things like plan ahead. For instance, I found a note that said there was an ogre boss on depth 7 once. I know, I'm sorry. And that I got a note later that said the ogre boss uses fire. So I eventually found a sigil of fire and decided, I bet if I combine the fire sigil with my chainmail that I found earlier, it will create some sort of fire resistance mail that'll be useful against the boss. And lo and behold, it did. It created like a fire warding chain mail, and so it was really useful. It like halved fire damage, and I almost killed the boss, but I died. But anyway, it's a neat idea, and it allows you to sort of enhance that feeling of taking the lore that you're finding about the generated world and prepare yourself accordingly, because that's actually a large portion of what the game is about. So yeah, that's Unexplored. I highly recommend it. Please do check it out. Link in the description below this video, and that's all I have to say. Thank you very much, and I'll see you next time.